All right, welcome back. We are going to get this started in a few minutes. Come on in. That last panel was phenomenal. Thank you, Brittney, for just sharing your heart and being able to articulate what is so hard to articulate sometimes in the nuances of navigating motherhood and the music world, and so relatable. I'm going to make you the co-host if anything happens with my Wi-Fi. Knock on wood. We don't want that to happen. And I'll let everybody kind of regroup in here and bring up our guests. Having a moment here with this spotlighting thing. Oh, I guess your camera has to be on for me to spotlight you. That makes sense. Got it. Okay. Thanks for your patience. Let's see. So when Bree, I think you just have to put on your camera and Makiba. See, your camera's on. Yeah. Having trouble. Oh, there you go. Kiva, hi. And Bree, you are next. Let me grab you. This is always the fun game of spotlight. Okay. I did it. Amazing, ladies. Thank you so much for being here. We are at panel 2. We just had an incredible panel. To reset the room, Brittney from Music and Moms org is here. I'm going to bring you on the stage just for a second so we can reset and welcome everybody. We have come together here, the two of us, to create a panel, a couple of panels, bringing in some incredible women who are sharing their stories, their insights, their journeys to help empower other women, mothers in the music industry, from artists to execs to music licensing to A&R, all work, songwriters. We have a lot of different people here that are covering the basis on how we navigate the intersection of motherhood and following our passions, our dreams, our career, and how that shifts as we show up in our motherhood, in our power, and just feeling not alone on that journey. We've done an amazing job, Brittney, of bringing so much of that conversation to the table this morning. Thank you so much. Would you like to add anything for us to jump off with?
No, I'm just super excited. I'm filled with just joy. The first panel was amazing. If you weren't able to catch it, you can for sure listen to the replay when we send it out. But I'm equally excited for the second conversation. As Sonnet mentioned, I'm Brittney King Brock, music executive and also the founder of Moms in Music. And our goal is to just continue to empower, support, and advocate for women who are moms or on the journey to motherhood in the music business. And it really starts from the core of everything being about community, and sharing our stories, sharing our experiences so that others along their journey just do not feel alone, and can provide insights. And so the biggest thing that I just want to make sure is kind of communicated in this conversation the same way in the first is that although we may be experts in our career paths and know everything that we know about, the industry that we work in, motherhood is the area of life where we're all growing, we're all learning. And so the playing field is really just to come from a place of being a student, listening, being able to say you don't know what you don't know, and listening and providing insight and holding space for others. So I'm excited to tune into this conversation, and thank you all for being here. Sonnet, take it away.
Yeah, isn't it a relief to know we don't have to be an expert? Like, we're not supposed to give all the answers on motherhood in this conversation. This is a conversation for us to bring what has worked for us, where we've seen the changes, and really just to feel seen in that experience, because it's different for everybody and it changes us in different ways and also really similar ways. So I really appreciate you bringing that to the conversation, Brittney. And for anybody who doesn't know, I'm Sonnet Simmons. I'm co-founder of 2Indie. We help support and coach songwriters, independent songwriters around the world in sync success, through accountability, through community, through opportunities. I'm a singer-songwriter. I've had success in sync in a lot of different avenues, and a mom of 2 little toddlers, 3 and 5, 2 little girls. So I'm going to unspotlight you. So we can hop in. So I'm just going to go through, do a little quick introduction, and then give you guys each a moment to tell us about your journey and give a proper introduction on who you are. It has been such a joy to do a little bit of a deep dive of you guys, and what you have done in your lives and what you're doing and what you're working on. We have some incredible women here joining us today. Elisa Scher, who is a producer and an artist. Joining us, we have Claire. Is Claire here? Wait a second. I did not bring up Claire.
I'm here.
Hey, Claire. Can't forget Claire. All right. We have Claire London from Mamas in Music. She's also a singer and songwriter. Janet Lopez, music supervisor. She's worked on Utopia, Twilight Zone, Veep, White Lotus. We'll let you get into that. Makiba Riddick, a Grammy Award-winning songwriter. I'm kind of blown away by your credits. I was like, oh, I wish I didn't know, because now I won't know what to say to you, because you're so amazing, the songs that you have worked on and that you've written. Shannon Rock, A&R Artist Management. She's also an artist herself, doing incredible work in this world, and cannot wait to get some insights from all of you. And Bree Harmon, entertainment host and personality. The things that you've created around motherhood, I cannot wait to get into how you have really jumped into that and created a lot of space and community around that. And I know a lot of you guys have. So my first question, the panel topic is really the evolution of motherhood. And I think we can all really relate to how it changes us. We talked about that in our past panel of like, it changes our priorities, it changes our hormones, it changes our body, it changes the way that we walk in the world, and like where our heart is in connected to our body and outside of our body, as Brittney so well articulated. So on your journey, your career path, can each of you kind of share a little bit of like your journey in your career before and after having children, and just kind of bring us into who you are, what you do through that journey? Whoever wants to jump in first with a little brief before and after.
I guess I'll go first.
Okay, go for it.
My path was a little unconventional. I never thought I was going to have kids. I never wanted kids. If we're going to just be brutally honest, I was committed to my job. I got lucky enough and landed a major record deal when I turned right before I turned 30. So it was very late in life. Rode that wave for a bit and realized, man, I like it better on the other side. And then I remember telling my mom one day, it's like, I don't want to get married. I don't want to have kids. I'm just going to do this. She said, never say never. Words that I can't ever unhear. And, fast forward 15 years later, I remember peeing on a stick and I was like, holy shit, I'm pregnant. And I panicked. And I walked out, and I remember telling my husband, and I weren't even married yet. And I remember I told him, and he literally took his shirt and pulled it over his head in the hallway, sat in a fetal position and just rocked and said, oh my God, oh my God. So, I mean, I'm like, are you excited? Am I supposed to be scared? But I think at that point I was already 38 almost. And I was like, you know what? If it's going to happen, it's going to happen now. So I had already kind of transitioned out of the artist phase So I think it was a little easier for me, because at that moment, as soon as I saw the 20 sticks that I peed on were all the same, I just kind of resigned myself to the fact that, okay, so this is what we're going to do now. And I don't know how it happened, but it was like a switch literally flipped. And I just kind of, I think I just kind of realized that, okay, it's no longer me. This is not my life. I'm going to have to like change and be something for somebody else. But how am I still going to do the creative part of it? But I think at that point, I kind of took it upon myself to say, you know what, I have to do things differently. If I want to stay relevant and I want to stay in the game and I want to still be a mom, because I said, if I ever had kids, I was going to be one of those moms that was home, because I didn't have that. And I committed to that because I made that promise to myself as a kid before I realized I was going to be in this crazy business. So I don't even remember what the question was, but I think that you just get to the point where you shift. It's just inevitable. And you make things work, kind of like what everybody said on the first panel in terms of prioritizing your time. You just figure it out. There is no guidebook. There's no like list of things that you can kind of check mark off. You can't. You just go. And you have to be okay being freaked out and uncomfortable, and just know that, trust me, people have been doing this long before we have. It's not new. Like, we will get by. And you also realize like who your homies are, who really has your back. And I think that's really kind of what everything changed. When everything changed for me, I was just like, okay, not only is my life going to be different, but even the people that I keep start to change without you realizing it. You just realize one day, it's like, wow, these are totally different people than my crew was 10 years ago. So yeah, I love being a mom. I love being a mom in music. I love that there are so many moms that can articulate all of the things that they've gone through, that we can all relate. We've all been there. And if we haven't been there, for the new moms, like, trust me, you're getting like a head start with all of this knowledge. So like, I see all of you. I hear all of you. This is amazing.
Thank you. I love how you took us on that story, and we could also like, go along with the journey of you. You've brought us right in. Thank you. Who else would like to share kind of the journey of your career and how motherhood, like before and after of what you do and how you've.
I think I can pick up. I
Yeah.
came in. Hey, everyone. I'm Bree, founder of the Millennial Mommies Club. So my organization is all about millennial motherhood and how we're navigating this motherhood journey, but as a millennial. Because coming up, my story's a little different. I don't know everybody's age group, but I'm 27, so I might be the youngest. I don't know. But for me, I graduated college, and when I graduated, I literally moved straight to LA, and I'm like, I'm working for Puff, and I'm in this industry, and I'm doing great. And 6 months later, boom, you're pregnant. So imagine just 23-year-old, you're excited to build on this career and journey, and now everything is about to shift and change, and you don't know how, you don't know when, you don't know what's about to go down. Then I have her, and literally 6 months later, I'm pregnant again. So I have two daughters, 3 and 4, that are 12 months apart. And I thought it was over, as every mom sometimes thinks when your career is thriving. You're like, what am I supposed to do? How am I going to navigate this journey? Who's going to watch my kids? How much is it going to cost? Where am I going to even still be that fine, sexy woman anymore? Am I going to be just, you lose it all in that moment. So for me, when I had them, I was just like, how do I pick myself back up? How do I get back into the industry and the field and stay relevant? To your point, Shannon. And I said, it's going to be me, and I have to do it for them. And I don't know, did I freeze you guys? Because everybody's like frozen in this one position.
Your camera is a little bit delayed, so I don't know, it might be your Wi-Fi. You're like moving a little slower than you're talking.
But is everybody here?
Yeah, I think we're not frozen. It might be on your end, but we're good. We can hear you.
Okay, perfect.
Audio is clear.
Yeah. Okay, good. So for me, going into this journey, my biggest thing was, how do I continue to still remember who I am? Because I think as moms and as women, we lose ourselves. And then I didn't want to just be the mom that is, you cook, you clean, your husband, you're that's it. So I took it upon myself to say, I'm not going to lose Bree. And I went through postpartum pretty tough with both of my daughters, and it was a snowball effect from one to the other. So I had to literally go back and watch those old videos and those old notebooks that I used to write in journals, and just say, you are still the woman that you say you were, and you can still get back out and keep going. And on this journey, I found, even when I have to bring my daughters to red carpet events, my kids are shaking hands with all these celebrities and photos and have no idea who they're really going to look back in 10, 20 years for, and look at them and say, man, I was with that person. But for me, being able to bring them on this ride and take them with me, my daughters have interests now behind the cameras, and I'm seeing her pick up mics and things like that, to where I can only keep going because they're getting an exposure that we may not have had. And I said, I'm not going to stop. So my drive to continue to find who I was being able to bring them into these opportunities to see that there's more out there. And it just, I've never stopped since. And then I built this community of women who are also on this journey of not losing themselves. So I made it a promise to be able to say, with the Millennial Mommies Club, this is not just going to be another club where we give your kids something. No, this is about you. So we put on 2 events a month, one for the mom by themselves, where you leave your babies at home, because some mornings you want to wake up and just say, I don't want to be a mom today. Don't call my name. I don't want to talk. I just want to go and be me. So we give the moms that opportunity where you just come out by yourself. And then we give the second one where, now let's throw another event where you can bring your kids and you come with them. So now we're building this community for our kids to also have friendship as well. And now that's been my goal and my drive ever since, to expose them to, don't lose yourself. And that's one thing that I was afraid of when I got pregnant. I made it something that I'm never going to do, even when it's tough, when we feel like we're losing ourselves. So for me, it was just keep going. Again, same thing to Shannon's point. I forgot the question. I hope I'm on the right track, but that's my tidbit.
That was the question. It was taking you on the journey, and you did exactly that. We really got to experience that, and bringing like a different vantage point of being like 23 and moving to LA, and you know, jumping from that and coming back and watching those videos and being like, look, that's me. Like, you can still step right into that, and what gifts we get to give our children by doing that. Yeah. Who would like to share their journey so far? Makiva.
Let me jump in.
Yeah.
So inspired by Brianna and Shannon's story, because I can relate, and I'm so thankful for communities like this now, because when I had my first daughter 11 years ago, I was a globe-trotting, moving and shaking, you know, singer, songwriter, producer all over the world, working with the biggest artists. And then I got married and we got pregnant, and I was like, what am I going to do now? How am I going to work? How am I going to travel? You know, I still want to be sexy. I still want to be out there. So it was quite an adjustment with my first baby. And then we relocated from Los Angeles back to the East Coast. And by that time, I was having my second daughter 3 years later. And so it was really like what am I going to do? And I don't want to lose myself. How do I reinvent myself as a mother, but still Makiva, still this person that can get it done, still this person that could show up for my job. So that took work, and that took grace for myself to say, hey, you can do it. And I realized that women are super women, like we are superhuman. I think about, you know, just an average routine, from getting the kids up, getting them on the school bus, feeding them, going in the studio, recording, label meetings, coming home, you know, getting them into bed, baths. Like, we are superhuman. And I think that organizations like this one are so important for women to feel like, hey, you're not alone. Because I felt like very isolated when I had to figure out, how am I going to continue this thriving career and be a mother? because just like Shannon, I always said, I want to be present for my children. I want to be there. I want to be at their schools for the events. I want them to know that I care. So, it was quite a juggling act, but I finally figured it out. And now we have 3 little girls. So it is a nonstop job, but I'm thankful that I'm not the only one, having those feelings and having those thoughts about how do I remain who I am and be a great mom as well. So I'm glad to be here.
That is so good. Yes, we are super, really taking stock of that and owning that. That is so empowering for us to be like, oh, I'm so overwhelmed. Look at my schedule, or look what I can do. Like, I don't have to do it all. I can also, like, who do I need to ask for help? Who do I need to delegate things to? But look what I can do. Like, I can make life. I can make lunch and breakfast at the same time while I'm putting on my mascara and somebody's following me to go pee, and then like taking a phone call. Like, our lives are crazy and we're just doing it. And it's amazing when we can come together and be like, I see you and feel seen. So thank you. And you really are such an inspiration in this industry. Thanks for sharing your story. Who would like to join in next? Take it from there. Yes, Janet. Hi.
Hello. Hi, everyone. I'm Janet Lopez. Thanks for having me. When Sonnet reached out about this, I was like, yeah, of course I want to be a part of it. But I also have to selfishly admit, I hope that I impart something that, helps, but I'm also like selfishly hoping to gather something that helps me because, and like,
Totally.
ladies, I can't tell you how happy I am to be in your company and to hear you guys speak frankly about it too, because I'm a music supervisor. It is just a full-time job. There is no kind of like halfway in, halfway out, and you have to do it on multiple projects, multiple levels, and it's what I'm good at. I'd been doing it proudly, like all of my 20s, into my 30s. I fell in love, and I was successful at being a music supervisor. And I was very, very, like, I was one of those young women who was like, I have to be the most like safe sex person ever. Like, if I kissed too long, I was thinking, this is good, I'm going to get pregnant. I have to be really careful. And it became, kind of like very front of mind for me. I was not going to have a baby with someone that I wasn't like in love with and in connection with and all these things. So my husband and I found each other. We fell in love. Now we were baby ready, I thought, and I had hoped and everything. And we got pregnant. I had a loss early on, and then got pregnant again. And we had Benjamin, which is the best thing I've ever done in my whole life. And he changed my life. And I'm Mexican. So I just thought like everyone would just come over and like I would barely get to hold my baby. And it was not that. Everyone was like, oh my God, he's so cute. And we love you so much, babe. And we're really close. We're a very close family. Nobody cared about me not knowing what the hell I was doing. It was just like the opposite of what I thought. And but still lots of love, like no resentment towards them. I was just like even my own mother, she's like, oh, I don't know, they do that, it's fine. And I didn't sleep, I didn't do it. I was very, very, very confused and lost, but not recognizing that because you were just sort of in survival mode, I thought, because there was this little person who was needing you for survival. And you just sort of were like, I'll give you anything. I know, like, I remember I was working and I was into it. I was in the office. I took 3 months maternity, which was a bit of a gift, I realized. And then I went back to work and Benjamin was in a daycare. And we were working really hard to hustle and do that while I was at work. But I remember I was in a groove and I was like, like you have to pump and dump. Remember those days? And you'd have to, and that wasn't like, it wasn't a tuned thing, but like they offered, we were just going to have a beer at the office because we were going to listen to music and go late. And I'm like, I probably shouldn't do that. And I'm like, and actually I have to go, I don't have time even if I did, because I have to go pick up the baby. And I had this moment where I was like, I wish I didn't have to go pick up the baby. I want to still listen and I still want to be not just who I am, but like focus on this priority, not that priority. And I felt terrible because my baby was like 6 months old and adorable. Like he's a gorgeous baby. This is Benjamin when he was a baby. I mean, like when he was 2. That's when he was 2. And I think that I was in this very giving kind of place I mean, even now, but definitely up until like the age of 4, because we didn't have the most idyllic situation. I thought I would when I was younger and I was planning, I was like, I'm gonna have a baby when I'm ready. I'm gonna have a baby when I'm in love and I'm married and my family's gonna be helpful. And I do love my husband, but he was not always available. And so I felt like a single parent a lot. And we thought we were gonna have 2 kids, and then we decided that window kind of came and went. I'm 43 years old. I had Ben when I was 36. And it felt, honestly, it was so intense because I was always going to be who I was before. Like that, I wasn't going to lose sight of that. I didn't know how to almost, but I did. I had a full-time love for my career, and I had this full-time new beginning for myself in my motherhood. And then I had this husband who I loved, who felt like another job. And I, like consciously, actually, if I had another baby, I probably would have lost my husband. Like, there's only so much you can take. It was a lot of work, and something was going to give. And so I didn't, and we didn't, and it's okay. We're happy with our one baby. But it felt like I needed to manage as best I could with my resources, knowing that I didn't have too much other help to depend on. And it is expensive and it is not always available. So I find myself now like totally in love with my baby, longing for a conversation, not always to do with my baby, with my husband, or like the things that you have to do. And also still being a freaking rock star in work, which is, by the way, taken on this whole other form. I was for 17 years almost at a company called Neophonic, which is one of the most excellent companies that exist. And then I went to be an executive at fantastic 20th Century Fox, 20th Century Studios and Searchlight Pictures. And now I have my own company. So I feel like I have this other baby in Agave Music and Media that I have, like, that's born now, and I have to be present for. So I'm kind of relieved I only have one kid because Agave is a month old. It's my other baby. And that's me. That's where I'm at right now.
Thank you for sharing. I know I wanted to hear about the birth of the new company too. So yes, that is like a baby, and just bringing the humanity, the honesty to it. Like we all have hit those like, oh, how am I going to get through this wall? And then, it opens up into the next phase. And I know people are putting the ages of their children in the chat, and it's like every age is a new hurdle. It's also like a new opening experience and a new inner growth for ourselves, which we'll get, into. Thank you for sharing. And it's so nice to see your face. Elisa or Claire?
Hi.
Hi, Claire.
Hey guys. First of all, I'm so honored to be here, and hearing everybody's stories and just meeting all of you is amazing. I am a singer-songwriter, artist. I am the host of a podcast called Mamas in Music, which is in connection to the Mamas in Music organization, which is a nonprofit. We're all out here trying to support moms, and I love all these organizations coming together. Before I had my daughter, who's 3, by the way, I feel like I'm like just now coming alive, like the first 3 years. I was full on doing the things, independent artist, the shows, the photo shoots, events, and songwriting with other people, and trying to do the thing in LA and the whole deal, right? And I was also one of those people who was just not really sure. I never really had the, like, I'm definitely going to be a mom one day. Like I just wasn't that person. But until I met my husband, and then it opened up as a possibility for me to like really make that happen. but I was afraid. I was really afraid of not being able to continue, like many of us feel. Like, how am I going to do all this? How am I going to be this like artistic, creative person who can like at the whim just like go to some, show or write a song with somebody on a Tuesday at 4, just all the things that the sort of the life that you live as an independent person, so that was really challenging, as well as being pregnant during 2020 in the pandemic, which I don't know if anyone else had that like wild experience. It was a culmination of, for me, like full disclosure, I'm 43 as well. So I had my daughter at 40, and so up till that point, I'm like 40 years of being this person who did not have a child. And like, it's like the greatest gift on the planet, and also a big challenge to rediscover and reinvent yourself after having all this time as like being who you are without being a mom. So the discovery of the new version of myself, and trying to like figure out if I could still do it. And also like, I was like, am I too old to be like I had a whole thing. We can go on a whole nother thing about that. But luckily I found the Mom is in Music community online in maybe 2021. And I think they'd been around since 2019. And I was like, I need you guys, let's work together. So I created the podcast, and I get to have all these conversations now with other women just like you, who tell me their stories and how they've done it. And, some of the greatest gifts that have happened to me over the past couple years is like redefining what I'm doing now as an artist, being able to serve other women in the community through community. I love doing that now. Like, I would have never had that. All these mothers that I've met. I mean, there's nothing like, community is so important in music, but there's nothing like the mom community. And you combine the two, and it's like a force to be reckoned with. We are like advocating for each other, trying to give each other opportunities. We are supporting each other. It's hard. 1, 2, 3 kids. It's hard across the board, no matter how old you are, and everyone's going through different challenges, and we need each other to relate to remind ourselves we're not alone. So essentially, to wrap it up, I've just been able to, luckily, like, the biggest gift has been sort of streamlining, because you don't have time. Here's what I want to do now. I get to say no to this easily. Decisiveness, like no floundering. Like, I got a project due, I've got 3 hours, better get it done, because that's all the time I've got. And that in a way has been a real gift. And of course, just like being part of community with mothers has been a real gift. So still continuing to like figure things out, but that's why we're here. So
yeah. Oh, I love that. And I love, taking that action of, like, so many of you have mentioned, like, creating the community that you're seeking, that you're needing, like Brittney, like Bree, like Claire, like all of you, like, you've gone out and been like, I need this community. And if it's not there, I'm going to create it, because we all need that community, and how that's like our lifeline through, and the superpower of the mother, to bring that back to Makiba's point, like, we all come together and we're like, I see you, like, what do you need? Like, I got you. And that is somewhere that is, yes, we're all women, but we all can speak to that from like the heart of a mother. So that really powerful share. Thank you. Elisa, you are our last one to share the journey of motherhood.
First of all, I'm so honored to be here with you all. Thank you for having me. You're just amazing and inspirational women, and I love hearing everyone's story. I don't even know where to start with mine, except that I can go back and say I have 2 teenage boys now, and say that I did lose myself. So for all the new moms out there with the young kids and stuff, I don't know if I can say something here, if I can get my thoughts in order to explain how not to lose yourself. That would be great. But
you don't have to be the expert. Like,
I'm not the
what you shared
expert.
with me the other day,
Yeah.
the decisions that you made.
There's so many. I mean, let's start from as soon as I was, walking and talking, I was singing and making up music in my head. And, fast forward to going to college for music, and then moving to New York City and moving to LA. I grew up with a mom that I don't really share this much, but I feel like I'm in like AA today for moms. So I might, my name is Elisa. And so I grew up, and my mom's amazing, but she was really clinically depressed a lot of my childhood. And I just, as a child, music saved me. Number one, sitting at the piano was my therapy. But number two, I really always did want to be a mom, because I kept saying, I feel like I want to raise kids differently. I want to raise kids that have, more confidence than I was able to grow up, but that have just that know that, their parent is there no matter what. And maybe because of that, I so overcompensate. I wouldn't say overcompensated, because they're teenagers and they're amazing young men now. And I have a beautiful relationship with them both, which it's like, I mean, one of them was in middle school during the pandemic. And when they said, okay, you can go back to school or you can choose to stay home the rest of the year, he chose to stay home the rest of the year just so he could continue playing practical jokes on me while I was working. Like, I would make my coffee at the Keurig, and then I would come back in the studio. I'm a producer, artist, but mostly producer. And I would come back, I'd go back and get my coffee, and there's no mug there, or the mug is empty. And I'm like, I know I made making me lose my mind. Just an example of, there's so much fun, and I'm glad I put my whole heart into it. But I will say that I was in LA. I met my husband at a wedding in Florida, and he is from Portland, Maine. And I was originally from the East Coast anyway. So I ended up moving back. I'm in New Hampshire. And the music side of me, I made a deal with him when I moved back. I said, I will move to the East Coast as long as I can still get to do my music. Because when I was in LA, things were just starting. They were getting really, really good. But I always wanted kids. And I felt like it was a yes or no thing. Like, can you have that family, and can you have that kids too? And at that time, even at 28 years old, as it seemed like being in the music industry was old then. Sorry. And so for me, I was like, okay, as long as somehow I can still do my music. And then when I moved back here and I had kids, I went whole 110%. Like, they were my everything. They still are my everything. But it seemed impossible to me to fit the music in. It was like, I spent money making sure I got my own, new piano and getting gear and things like that. But I wasn't really able to do much. I didn't have the time. Somebody mentioned in the chat before about, you're showering with the bathroom door open, and, it was like, there was no time at all. And then when I would do recordings, I would feel guilty spending like my family money. I had been doing technical stuff, IT stuff in corporate world, so that I could spend my own money on my music recordings and stuff. I felt the guilt of spending family money. I felt the guilt of taking time out and going to a studio and recording my stuff. And it took a very long time for me to realize that I was there 24/7. My husband is a corporate attorney. He is literally, we could be in a line at Disney World and he's still working. There's just no getting around it. So I'm gracious, and he's been amazing, and he's an amazing dad, but the on person always had to be me. So honestly, I finally, out of the guilt, started teaching myself how to produce so I could do this, when the kids go to bed. I started my own photography business like 15 years ago. That was money that I kind of hoarded so that I could buy gear and do things. And then, fast forward a little more than that, started learning it all myself. But I know this doesn't sound like a commercial, but when I met Sonnet in 2020 and I started doing all of the stuff for Sync, and I was like, okay, wait a minute. So I'm here. I'm in New Hampshire. I used to submit to things in LA, and I still was working on stuff in LA, but it was like nothing compared to what it opened my eyes to. So the crisis of the pandemic and having my kids home and not me running around nonstop and everything, they're in school, my husband's in office in the other area. I finally was like, wait a minute, why have I been feeling guilty all this time? Really, I'm not missing sporting events before. I wasn't doing anything, but I was not putting myself in the game at all. I was not giving myself, like I said to Sonnet the other day, you know, I've had these conversations with my husband where I was like, yeah, I guess, you know, me having my little photography business and doing my music, though, if I was back in any other career where I wasn't juggling all of this, we'd be paying so much for childcare, but yet I didn't want to pay for studio equipment or things like that. Thinking back, my husband supported me here, always supported me. I put it on myself because I thought being a mom was like, that's my job. That is my 100% job. And that's all I can do right now. And again, I still feel that way as the kids are teenagers, but I also realized that I lost myself, and I didn't realize how much I lost it till I went full throttle during the pandemic, being able to be home and not running around. And now being a full-time music producer with producing stuff for people all around the world. And when things first started picking up, the biggest thing I said is I called my boys in and I said, guys, it was like one of my, you know, first music syncs and stuff. I said, I always wanted you to see. I know y'all probably thought it was crazy when I started doing this and not knowing what I was doing. I said, but that hard work can pay off. And mom put herself in the game and it can pay off. And I always said, I wanted to make it to an age that I was old enough for my kids to know how much they are loved, so they will never forget it. That was my first goal. My second goal was that I wanted to make it somehow anyway in music, it's not about the money. It's not about anything besides the fact that I can do this on a daily basis, making it known that my hard work did pay off. And although I wasn't able to do it when they were little, they did get to witness through the last bunch of years that here I was, I put myself in it, and it's paid off. And I talked to them about that. And one of them is like, Mom, I'm so proud of you. And I know that sounds corny, but they're at that age where they're like little buddies now. And I don't regret having lost myself at all. But I would say, looking back, they're, you know, it was different though. Women producing couldn't, you know, you didn't have a foot in the game as much, but you do now. You, not even just production, artists can be older, artists are moms. Like, I don't have the desire to be an artist anymore. I really, if you know, I still love singing and I'll sing on stuff if it needs to be done, but just being in the music industry in any way, shape, or form is so much more available to moms now than it was when my kids were little. And my advice is just, I hope everyone take its advantage of that and don't get stuck on the age thing, because Lord knows I still do, and go for whatever you want. And your kids to see your hard work is what's going to pay off.
Thank you for taking us through that journey. I think you really help highlight, you know, another side of the story of like being where your kids are older and the decisions that you've made and where it's led, and also the evolution of the industry, the evolution of the mother, the evolution of the industry, and where we're at now, as we discussed in Brittney's panel. There was so much that you brought up there, the guilt of spending money on ourselves versus our family versus our children, the time allowance. I mean, it could be money, it can be time, like all of that. And you also started around the conversation, which was my next question, of course, just like on Brittney's panel, where it was like that last person always led into our next one, which is so great because it means, you know, the conversation is definitely flowing. But as mothers, I know for myself, when I became a mother, I was like, boom, like, whoa, everything you do, they're watching. Everything you do, like, you better figure out what you're doing, not like on a physical thing, but like, you know, who are you in this world? How do you want to show up? Because that's who your little girls are going to grow up to be. And so you better like really take note, like the self journey, the inner growth of a mother is like, that's it. Like, to me, that was the biggest thing, like this self-growth journey of what do I want to model for my children? And my children, for me, that's like every day. Like, how can I show up better today to model to them the woman I want them to be? And so when we go for our careers and we go for our dreams and we advocate for ourselves, we're teaching our children how to respect themselves and what they want to do in the world, and that they can take up space and use their voice, and it's valid for them to have dreams, and it's valid at any age, any human. And so my question is, for each of you, like, what is the thing that you are, modeling for your child, or that you that really shifted for you in terms of what you want to model for your children? And Elisa, you shared, like, I want them to know that their hard work pays off, or that they are loved, or, and I think each of you come in at a different point. Like, what is the thing that, for me, my children are like, oh, I'm going to work today, I'm going to the studio. Like, they think that's work. And I didn't think that was work when I was a child. Like, that wasn't modeled to me. I didn't know that was a viable option. And so, I know there's a million answers to what we want to model for our children, but how is really showing up in your career and in your music and in, different facets here, really, what are the attributes that you want to model for your children? And maybe, it's articulating that here for the first time with us. Love to have some of you jump in on what inspires you about what you're modeling for your children.
I think it's bringing them, for me, it's having them apart. So like you said, your daughter's saying, the studio is my job. They don't know that that's what that is until you brought them around it and they saw you do it. They saw your passion, they saw your joy. So that's, for me, bringing them into space and having them apart. Like I said, my kids, they're on red carpets and they may sit in the corner, but they see me interviewing, or they see me hosting a stage, and they see thousands of people in the crowd, and they're like, that's my mom up there. I'm also an author. So I authored a children's book. So for me, when my daughter got to bring her book to her class, when I picked her up, she was just like, that's my mom. My mom wrote that. And like, her friends are all in class, like, I want my mom to write a book. And in the back, there's my face and there's a little bit about me. So she's like, look, doesn't that look like my mom? That's my mom. So for me, it's being able to let them see and know that there's no limit. And when I didn't stop, there was moments where I was like, I'm throwing in the towel, man. I'm done. But when I have my daughter come in and say, my daughter says, that's Bree Harmon, that's my mom. Or she'll say, the Millennial Mommies Club, that's our job. And it's like, hearing her say that is my validation to know that I'm showing her that she can do it and bringing her in the spaces. So every day you can't stop, because that little person wants to be somewhere in that space, or just like you someday. Even here, you're my best friend. Why am I your best friend? Because you're so fun, and it's just so cool when we go to work. And she's 4. So for her to say these things, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm cool. I'm doing the right stuff. So putting them in the space and letting them be exposed to it is my how I do it.
I love that. Yeah. Bringing them along for the journey and really letting them see you shine your light as bright as you keep shining brighter. I love it.
I love that too. If it's okay, I'll just jump in next.
Yeah. Anybody.
Me, Bree. Yeah. What I was gonna say is, actually, I want her to see her mom happy, and what makes me happy is making music and singing and being part of community and building ideas and being around strong women. And I want her to see her mom happy and passionate and full of life and excited about life. And even when things are hard or whatever, but just like a happy mom. I think it's kind of as simple as that, really, for me. Happy parents, happy mom. And when mom's fulfilled and taking care of herself, it's a good thing. It's a good thing for everybody. So
I think for me, my biggest thing was, I didn't grow up in a family. My parents were military, so we traveled a lot. So I was used to packing up and leaving every 2 years. So to me, that was very normal. I never really kind of understood how, people grow up in these neighborhoods or live in the same house that they grew up in, or that they came home from the hospital in. That was just kind of like, to me, that was just not familiar at all. So I think one of the biggest things that I do I have an 8.5-year-old. Her name's Winnie. She's her own little character. But I think what we model in our home is like, you can do whatever you want. Like, we don't ever set any kind of parameters in terms of like, you have to do this, you have to do that. Our home is very unconventional, but it's just a home full of love. So she's one of the kind of kids that has so much confidence because we encourage it. And she sees me in these battles against all the men that I'm competing against for these certain, opportunities. And to her, it's just become the norm. Like, oh, she doesn't even call me mom. She's like, girl, you got this. I mean, she's like a little 30-year-old. It's crazy. But that's what she knows. She just knows that I don't take no for an answer. And if somebody does tell me no, I look at it as, oh, well, it's not an objection. It's a condition. Maybe it's a no for right now, but we're going to be able to influence the decision to make it a yes. And I think it's just instilling that in her in all these little ways without having to say anything. Again, like Claire said, if mom's happy, then life is good. So it's, I think, just really creating that environment where they feel safe to do whatever they want, and to be however they want, and to just understand that it's okay to be your own individual. And sometimes other people may not like that, but it doesn't matter. It's like what makes you happy. And that's like the biggest thing. Because, as parents, we want to shelter our kids from everything. But the reality of life is they're going to walk outside one day and somebody's going to say something really hurtful or ugly, or and if you shelter them, they're not going to have a comeback. But if you can just teach them to understand that it doesn't matter what anybody thinks, as long as you're okay, that's the key, because that's what they believe. And if you can be convincing enough to get them to believe it, dude, you are the end all be all in your child's eyes. I mean, you guys know that. So like, they are, just like Sonnet said, man, they are going to mirror you. They see everything you do. So just make it good.
I want to just on the heels of that, I'm totally in sync with what all of you are saying. And I think that with my baby, who I still call baby, I think I'll call him baby when he's 53 years old. But I think that one of the things, advocating for my baby and like having his back and correcting him when he's like, hey, that wasn't cool. That was insensitive. Or like, you probably know that wasn't the best choice. Like giving him direction to have him like recognize his own conscience and process things in his little 6-7-year-old mind as best he can. And I'm there to help. I even tell him this, like, I'm like, baby, I would never tell you something because I want to prevent you. I'm just trying to help you. And that dialogue with my son is what I hope he picks up on. I want him to be able to know that like his words are powerful, his actions are powerful. And we also encourage like kind of, he's drawn to certain things, which is really cool. Like he writes comics books and he's very imaginative in that way. When I'm like all in, I'm like, yes, let's do that. He was writing an assignment for school. And in the assignment, they had to like kind of write about the story that they had learned. And the note from his teacher at that time, this was like a couple of years ago or a year ago, she wrote the comment, there's no horse in this story. And I was like, well, there should be. What, my baby? I'm like, is that the criticism? Like, are you correcting my baby because he added a horse to the story? Hello? Like, I think that's extra credit. Horses in stories, amazing. And I want Benjamin to kind of feel empowered in his imagination, empowered in his like decision making, and know that I'm there to help him sort of guide that. Even when I'm struggling or I have a conflict, I try to protect him from that, but sometimes I like physically can't even, like our house isn't even that big. So he'll witness that. And the modeling that I will try to do is to like, let me see if I can be as cool as I can right now while I tell you that was like totally fucked up. Like, don't do that. Not to my son, but like to like my friend or my husband or whatever. And I want him to hopefully know like there's a right, or maybe there's a better way to handle something. And he's an only child. Hopefully that kind of helps him feel confident as he grows up.
I'll jump in next. To everyone's point, I think like Claire said, it's really important for my girls to know that I am happy. I have built a studio in the house and they come down and they sit on the floor and they watch me record, and certain songs I'm writing, they're asking me about it. And I'm telling them, these songs lift people up. These songs make people smile. These songs put people in a better place. And so I want them to know that what mommy is doing is helping people. But also, something that's really important to me is that they know that they are the light of the world. And so when at holiday time, we go to shelters, women's shelters, and give clothes away. And I'm on a board for Hope for Harvest in Charlotte, North Carolina, where we do a turkey giveaway and we give things to those in need. And I bring the kids along because I want them to know, this is what we are supposed to do. We are supposed to give back. If we have it, this is what we are supposed to do. And that's really important for me. When I was growing up, my mother worked in a soup kitchen. She would bring me along and I would be giving food out to the people that were coming up to get a plate. And so for me as a child, that impacted me so much that now with my own 3 girls, I want them to know we are blessed to be a blessing. And so I think that's really important that they see that and they know that, and they know that that makes me happy when we are able to give to other people. So that's really important to me too.
Oh, we are blessed to be a blessing. It's really like becoming a mother allows us to distill that, like, what are our values? Oh, like these are our values. Like we really get to distill it down and be able to package it up to pass it down. And what an incredible piece of the puzzle to share with your girls and this next generation that gets to see what is possible and how they are the light of the world. Yes. Lisa, did you want to share anything else on that? I know you kind of jumped us off on that one. Did you have?
Oh yeah, no, I think I said it.
Okay.
I think I said it. But I wanted to say to Janet, like, oh my God, just thinking back, you have the younger boy and I've got the 2 teenage boys. And, it sounds like my boys, I still call them baby even when they call me on the phone, getting out of school. Hey, baby, hi, honey. And they don't complain. And so you just remind me of myself with my little men, and he is going to grow up knowing, that you're his friend. And it was nice to hear your side coming up.
Thank you, Lisa. The other day I said to my babe, I was like, I was on a phone call with him and I was like, hey baby boy. And he's like, hey baby mama.
That's funny. I will say though that I did learn, because one of them's a big basketball player, and I did learn that yelling "Go baby cakes" is not what a varsity basketball player wants to hear from the stands. And when I realized that came out of my mouth, I said, "Oh my God, he's never going to talk to me again." And it was fine. I didn't mention it. He didn't mention it. I hope he still didn't hear it, but it's happened. Either or, like one of them will call and I don't know that there's someone in their car, with them now. And I'll still say, hey babe. And then mom, you're on speaker. Okay. Sorry. Yeah.
I also just wanted to check in. I know, Makiba, you had said that you needed, did you still have a heart out at 11:30? I think she just.
I do. They are calling me right now.
Oh, right now. Okay.
Yeah. So I gotta jump.
Oh, okay.
So
thank you
awesome.
so much for your
Yes.
amazing energy and love that you
Thank
shared
you
with us
guys.
today.
This was awesome. And I look forward to connecting with everyone in the future.
Yeah, can't wait.
Bye guys.
Thank you, Makiba.
Okay, so we're quickly, so many people on the panel, like moving through. We've got like 2 questions in right now. This is how we are. We're a chatty group here of a lot to share and and it just goes to show like the through lines on how we can really relate to this, the motherhood journey. There's so many things we're like, me too. I feel seen. That's me, no matter where your kids are. There was a few more questions I wanted to get to. And also I want to remind people, if you do have questions for our guests, I would love for you guys to share your questions so that, I know that feeling seen as a mother is so important, whether your partner gives that to you or your community gives that to you. So please ask your questions so that we can help you feel seen by these guests up here. If you have any, or you want to just share, kind of where you might be struggling or where you might need a little, like, hey, this is where I'm at. Anybody else with me on this? Please drop it in. My next question for you guys is, what did you along our lines of motherhood, we, you guys shared your journey of kind of like where you were and where you are now and what you've done in order to like step forward in your career. But and something that we talked about at Brittney's panel, talking about these limiting beliefs that we didn't even know we were subscribed to. I know for me, like I remember so clearly, I was pregnant. I found out I was pregnant. I was on Runyon Canyon hiking, and I was like, it's done. Like, I'm done. I also felt this about my age, but being pregnant, I was like, well, it's really over. Like, music's done. Like, you don't see it modeled enough, maybe now a little bit more, but we didn't have these models to see, like, what does it look like when you're a mom? Like, what can it look like? So these limiting beliefs that we kind of have subscribed to that hinder the way that we show up. And Brittney shared her story of like stepping into this big role, and she's worried, like, did they hire the wrong person because I'm a mom? Like, did they know, like, I'm a mom? Shoot. And you're being like, I'm a mom, like, I'm a freaking badass, like Makiba was sharing, like, we are superheroes. So what are some of the things, like either a limiting belief that you have, because those are sneaky and we kind of don't know that they're happening until we really like slow down enough to become aware and kind of take them out of our subconscious, or something that you've had to let go of along the way to be like, mourning this experience of who you were and who you now are, because you are a mother, and what you now really believe or what you stand for, what you had to let go of to become that. Either of those, I would love to hear on.
One of my limited beliefs was the fact that I said I'm 27 years old with 2 kids. And I had to say, you have so much more life. Like, you have so much more to do. If you stop right here, you'll never know what your 30s could have looked like with bringing them on the journey. So when I got pregnant straight out of college, I had only had 6 months on an on-air role. So I thought, that's it. Who's going to hire you as what audition are you going to go get on the next show with this big old belly? Usually people get pregnant while they're on the show, so they know they have the safety net. Well, it's so beautiful. Hey, she's pregnant. And then she comes back and she still has her job. But you're trying to get a job walking around with an 8-month pregnant belly. And you're worried that no one's going to hire you again. And then I finally had my daughter, and I said, called up Revolt, like, hey Puff, hey guys, I'm back. She's dropped. Let's go. So my 6 weeks are up. I'm ready to get back on a carpet. And then I start going again, and I call and I say, all right, guys, I'm pregnant again. I'm so sorry. Give me another 9 months and I'll be back. And I'm like, no, they're going to really throw me out the door and I'm not going to get anything else. So then my postpartum words start to kick in, because I said, who's going to hire me now? They're going to think I'm going to keep getting pregnant every 9 months. They don't want me anymore. So I quickly got, for my 6 weeks or my second, I said, give me birth control now. I want a shot. I want the tap. I want inside. I want whatever you got to do, so I cannot have a kid again, because I got to get back to my passion and my joy. And once I let go of the fact that it's okay, like, you're young, people always tell me now, you got them out the way early. So now you can really go ahead and live your life when you get in your 30s and they're 18 and up and you're having a good time. So once I let go of that, and I believe, like, you can still get out there. People are still going to want to hire you. Don't give up right now. Once I let that out the window, it's been going fast forward since then. And now I've been on shows and I've been booked and I've been in all these places where I'm like, imagine if I would have sat down and never came back into the industry, letting my age and my fear get in the way. So now it was just letting that go. But that was mine, just believing that who's going to hire a pregnant girl with 2 kids, and she's going to get pregnant again. There's nothing to offer right now.
I think another thing too is you gotta like give yourself grace and say, the one thing I learned is, like, it's okay to say no. Just because you're a mom doesn't mean you're not going to get called to do another gig or to write in another session. I think it just kind of puts you in a different space where you're able to write with the people that you're supposed to write with. And maybe these other opportunities weren't the right opportunities because they just weren't the right people. And if they don't fit into the little box that you need it to fit in, then guess what? It's okay. It's not the end of the world. You're not over. It's just not the right team. So I think I've learned to just say no a lot more often. And I think it also is because our time is so valuable, the little bit that we do have. And I know for me, having a school schedule kind of keeps me on track because I know, okay, I have literally 5 hours, 6 hours to get it all done. And I do say no now. And I'm not worried that, oh my God, are they not going to call me again? Am I done? Am I off am I out of the Rolodex? It's like, no. And who cares if you are? Because that just means that was not the right opportunity. And you've just now made space for the right one, the one that does fit and make you feel better. So say no. It's okay. It's totally okay.
I think also you have like misconceptions too as a mom, that when you go into these spaces and you're collaborating with others, like, am I still interesting? People still want to hear like my story? Yes. I think that was something I had to, I don't know, like talk myself out of. It's like, I'm actually more interesting. I've done this and that. I'm able, thank God, like I was able to have a baby and now he's doing good. My baby can read. Like there was like a meeting, it was a staff meeting, and we were all talking about things that were like, important stuff. And I was like, anyone have anything to share before we get started? And I was like, my baby can read. And they were like, yes, it was amazing. It was so cool. And I think that, I'm still a professional. I could still get into like, oh, okay, I'm my composer, like we're doing this, we're going to score, like all these different things. But in the meanwhile, I also have this sort of broadening world about me. Benjamin has helped me as a person too. It's not just like, what I'm a mom, yes, but I can still do my job. It's like, I can do my job better. Like I'm a mother. And it's important to remember that even for myself sometimes, because it is exhausting. But I am a better person, I think, because of my son, or when I know that I probably like that same conversation that I would have with Ben, like, is this the right thing? I have with myself, because I'm trying to model for my baby. And I don't always succeed, but like if I try to keep that in mind, it helps me stay strong. I also, just because I feel like I'm the only one that probably has one kid on our entire panel, but I will say that you have one kid, okay, Claire and I feel like I had to keep reminding myself, and I still do, that it's okay that he doesn't have a sibling. I felt very guilty. I still feel guilty about that. I try to surround him with people, kids and adults, and like environments where he would, kind of create a more of an extended family. And I have a big extended family. So he's got family, Lopez and Stefan, that he can hang with, but a little pal that he can like share a bunk bed with and all that stuff, he doesn't. And I hope that I create enough of a life so that he doesn't ever have to feel like that's a thing, a void, I hope. I don't know if I'm not convincing myself even as I say it, but I do think that it's something I have to remember is okay.
Yeah. I mean, that's true. We are growing up at like in certain ways, we get to step towards what we want our beliefs to be and fortify ourselves from the inside out as we are raising our children with the beliefs that we want them to have. Or like, I also am learning to give myself grace so that my child will understand what it looks like to give myself grace, and learning to say no and set my boundaries in a more clear, concise way so that my children will learn how to say that. And I really like your point, Shannon, of like, when we become a mother, we get to, or I don't know if we get to so much as we become like mother bears. Like our time is precious. There is no wasting our time. Our priorities shift, and we get to really like step forward into saying no, or to being like, well, peace be with you, because you are not the right person to work with me, because these are my priorities. And this is the person that I will like go to bat for and continue to get up every day and for. And if this conversation is, we get to just keep distilling that down of like, it is okay for that to be, the motherhood, because as Rebecca shared, like, we are mothers, not just to our children, but to this planet and in this world. And we get to really extend that energy and teach the lessons to the people around us, lift each other up. And it's such a incredible, profound experience that we all get to share and relate on. So thank you for highlighting that and, just sharing also the love of motherhood. I can hear in each of your stories, like how much you love stepping into that and being a mother and love your children and also love yourself and what it is that you have to offer and the gifts that you have to bring to the world and how both are very important and go hand in hand. I know we had a couple of questions come up and yeah, I'll go into some of the questions and then maybe I'll ask one last one of mine if there's time. This is kind of off topic, but it's kind of interesting too. So somebody wrote, something I've been thinking of lately as I started a music for media company during the pandemic is the hustle that we're all doing. I keep reading about how AI will change the landscape for us musicians. Can anybody share some thoughts on where they feel like we are with AI and music and the music industry? It's kind of off topic with motherhood, but it's also an interesting topic as we all are different spaces of entertainment and music and this world. Anybody have any thoughts on where we sit with AI?
I'll speak to that because it's come up a lot. My husband's an actor, so we're dealing with the whole SAG union situation. I don't think it's such a negative thing. I think if people can kind of just wrap their mind around, hey, now there's an opportunity to have this additional help. I mean, we're not taking the human out of everything, but I don't see how it can't help us if we use AI in the right way. I know that a lot of people are against it because they're thinking, oh, the robots are going to take over our jobs. It's like, you know what? It's no different than when radio went satellite. There are always going to be people that listen to regular terrestrial radio that don't want to pay a premium for Sirius XM. It's not going anywhere. I feel the same way about this. Like, we're humans, we're not going anywhere. We're still going to be creatives. It's just about finding the right people that have the same paths and you guys are aligned in terms of goals. It's like, if you can introduce AI into the situation to make your product even better, I don't see any problem with that. And I think we just have to be okay being uncomfortable and know that these are changes that we're going to see. This is just the beginning. I mean, it's not something to fear. I think we have to embrace it and figure out, how do I make this work for me? That's just how I look at it. But I'm crazy. So yeah.
I love that. I think that goes hand in hand with motherhood. It's not, it's like, oh, fear of all the things where it could cut us off or, but like, look at the ways that it can actually support and like open us up to. And, like Janet just opened a new business. Like, motherhood, just as AI, like allows us to open up in new ways that we didn't even know were possible to us when we can look at it that way. I love that perspective. And then letting go of that fear that's like, oh my gosh, what if, which only really slows us down. Yeah, great point. Let's see, do we have any other questions in the chat? I know, let's see, there's one more. Oh, a question for Elisa. Since your boys are teens, are they interested in music production? And have either of them started producing or songwriting?
Oh yeah, I answered that there, but what I said is like we have like every instrument here. They had every opportunity. They jumped from instrument to instrument. They were always good at them, very good at them, but in their heart of hearts, they're more athletic. So they went the direction of being athletes, but part of me was glad. I don't know, just, it's not, that's a horrible thing to say, but I wanted to expose them just in case they had it in them. They have the talent. They didn't want to use it. And it made me happy because it's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears in any creative industry. And so, for better or for worse, I'm glad that they chose different paths. But I will say they are extremely helpful on sharing Spotify playlists with me. So I always stay current. So that's all I need.
Love that. Yeah. So this was touched on just at the end of the panel. Somebody brought this up and I feel like it's, there's not like a right, there's, as Brittney mentioned in the beginning, like this is not anybody to be the expert on, but to share your experience. The idea of the hustle making money, surviving, like showing up as a mother, balancing I'm a mom and priorities, and also making money and surviving, and you know, how do we navigate that? And Gabby in the last panel brought up something I wanted to continue talking about, is like, how do we show up? How do we find innovation? How do we show up for what we really desire and create? And each of you are such an example of creating something that inspires you, that lights you up, like taking that action, showing up every day for what it is, and showing up in motherhood. And that is a skill of resilience. It's a skill of like letting go of the inner strength of coming forth, of letting go of those fears, of doing it anyway, of being seen, of allowing yourself to be seen. What is some of advice that you might have for other aspiring women, moms in music who are, you know, at that crossroads, like, I want to be present with my children and I want to make money, and the hustle is hard, and it can be hard, you know, when you haven't found that lane, or you haven't figured out the combination of how do you kind of intertwine those avenues. So can anybody speak on you know, what that looks like for you in terms of showing up, or the resilience that you've created in yourself to create both of those worlds?
I want to just say that, like, I always say this, like, whenever you have a great plan, the plan makes its own decision. So just be open to change. I think be open to the direction that your world takes you, that your family goes, and just remember to keep yourself on the front burner, because like you guys were saying, if mom's not happy, you know, things aren't going to run smoothly. And if you asked me 15 years ago, was I going to, you know, be so excited to be producing full time and not, I mean, I'm still writing, but I'm not, you know, singing all the time. I'm not performing. I don't want to perform. I'd be like, what? Are you kidding? I can't produce. I can't do any of that. But like, you just be open to change, be open to listening to your inner voice. And if moms know anything, it's that we all know we have really strong intuition. So go with your gut, go with your intuition. It's like magic. It's what makes moms superheroes. I really, really, really do believe that. So when you say, what does it look like? It looks like being flexible and knowing that maybe the idea that you had in your mind of what success in the music industry is might be very different for you a few years down the road, but you have to be open to it, because the biggest gift can be standing right in front of you. But if you have your eyes closed to it, you'll miss it. And I've learned that. So, and I've learned that, and thank God, and thank my intuition that I've been open to change. And that's probably because I'm a Gemini and, and I'm all over the place, but whatever works.
I love that, actually. I was just thinking when you were talking that, you know, just know that you're not going to be able to do it the same way you were before. And that's okay. That is okay. It will be a new way. You will figure it out. And I have to say, in my opinion, a better way. Like, again, the streamlining, making decisions, really prioritizing. What do you want to do? What do you not want to do? And, you know, for all the freedom that I had, essentially, there was a lot of like floundering and like, I don't know, and you know, and I feel like now I'm just like, so I'm saying I'm embrace that gift of there is going to be this transition of like it being really hard to not do it the same way, like maybe trying a little bit too much to like have one foot back in the old way, but you just can't. And then embracing that new way, and it may be being open to that being like a better way and a really cool experience to do it that way.
I think we're all kind of like agreeing on the same thing. It's funny because I like, as Elisa said, it's like intuition and like just trusting, because man, that's the one thing you can't be taught. That's inherent, that understanding and that discernment to know like, hey, whoa, this doesn't feel right. Instead, what I've learned is like, it's a path of least resistance. Instead of trying to make everything fit the way you want it to, just let it be. Just let it be. Because we're never going to be able to control it. The path has already been laid out for us. We just have to trust that it's the path that we're going to, take that's going to make us happy. And sometimes we might be on a little detour, but eventually we'll reach our destination. You just got to trust. You really just have to trust. And it goes back to just aligning yourself with the people that are on that same journey. Because if there are people that are in your group or just don't have the same vision, it's just never, it's going to be like putting a square peg in a round hole. It's just never going to work. So stop trying to force things that you want to be the way they're supposed to be, instead of just letting them work out the way that you hope they'll be. Because if you believe they're going to happen like that, 99% of the time they do. But you got to be really specific, and you got to just trust.
And my biggest things, like you guys have all touched on every part. I'm big on grace, right? Grace, just give yourself as a mom grace with everything that you do. Because like you've already stated, there's no manual, there's no rule book. What my mom did, what my grandma did, what my best friend did, what my sister did is not the way I'm going to do it. And it's going to be so different every time. My brother just had a baby 2 weeks ago, and there's this new gadget. And I'm like, I just had my kid 3 years ago. And why is this new? Like everything is changing and growing, and it's not the same. So giving yourself grace to understand that, hey, we're going to rock this out, baby. It's just me and you. They don't know any better. All they know is what mommy says, and all they know is what you do. So they're thankful just to be with you. So just to give yourself grace in that moment. It's like if you're doing a dance routine and you mess up, but you're the only one who knows the dance, so no one knows you messed up. They don't know. Only you would know. So if you just say, hey, we'll try again tomorrow, every single day, that's the best way to kind of navigate this motherhood journey, in my opinion. Just giving yourself grace. I always find myself sometimes just saying in a pickle, I'll be like, grace. All right, let's keep going. Like, just give myself that moment to accept it and keep it moving.
I'll just echo that. Really, it feels like it's a bit of a hard thing to remember and be kind to yourself in that way. But I will say that you got to pay your bills. You got to keep your head up. And I'm not kidding. You got to take it on the chin sometimes. You just got to be like, all right, that's okay. That's fine. And have a disposition where you believe in yourself, and that inward, like, I got this. Okay. My grace, my just sort of like trust in myself. It's going to project now, and people are going to see that. They're going to hire that. They want to be a part of that. They want to collaborate with someone with a mindset that's not going to fucking spin out. It requires you to like take a shower in the morning, feed your baby, get him to school, remember to sleep, maybe have like no more than 4 cups of coffee. You know what I mean?
I think I'm breaking your rules, Janet. More than 4 cups of coffee. I'm sorry. Did you say shower every day? It's just like sometimes but you're spot on. I just breaking them left and right.
No, I mean, if I manage that expectation myself, I win. But I feel like I do think that we're going to be disappointed, and we're going to have to struggle, and you're going to feed your baby before you feed yourself. But you still need food on the table, and it's hard. But just don't lose hope. Keep your head up. And it's going to be like, I'm having, I don't know, a hang later this week with people that unfortunately had to like let me go from my job. But I'm like, I still love them. They still love me. We can still work together in another capacity. So that bridge is far from burnt. It's like, there's just another way to work through it. And as long as they still see me as someone who's got a head on her shoulders, and it's not sort of this resentment or whatever, there is no resentment. It was just sort of the way life goes. You can't control it. It's the weather. So, wear a raincoat. And
Wow.
keep your head up.
Keep your head up. Yeah. gosh, there's so much goodness here. I love like the trust that you bring into it and the grace and the just owning your power allows you to keep your head up, allows you to take it on the chin, allows you to be like, okay, like I'm still here present in my body, which takes, you know, some skill for those people who weren't taught that in the beginning of life, to just like keep coming back to that power that we get to then model for our children and extending that grace to ourselves, extending that grace to the children. And you also said that there's always a way through. And I think that relates to parenting, you know, and relates to creating your path in music and how that works with how do we create revenue, you know, when we just keep showing up, when we keep, you know, not letting the fear get in the way, where we're like, there's always a way through. So like, what's the next step for me? How can I keep showing up here? How can I keep calm and collected? How can I make sure I got that shower, that I fed myself and my kids, and like keep showing up in that space, knowing that the path is going to lead you there, and that it can feel like, oh, what if AI takes over? Or like, what if I, you know, this or that, and all the voices that come in, what if I'm too old? All, you know, these things. But we're here today. This conversation is here to really help empower all of like all of the people watching, and extend this to the people that we know who are not here today with us, that like we are not alone in this, and that this is our gift, that we get to be mothers, and we get to come forth, and we get to like step forward in that power, and we get to be that in the industry. And it's really interesting to see how that's evolved. It was really highlighted well in Brittney's panel on, you know, that really just the evolution that we're at, and where we hope it is in 5 years from now, you know, where we hope this industry is in advocating for mothers and making that space on so many levels. But yes, my advice would be keep showing up, because I know sometimes we can be our worst critics. Somebody said that, our worst critics, we are the ones that get in our own way. Like the world is not against us. The industry is not against us. Other people that we're working with are not against us. AI is not against us. Like we actually are all here to lift each other up and to keep showing up for what really lights us up. And by doing that, we get to, you know, be the happy mom that raises the children that take on that next generation. So thank you guys so much for being a part of this panel, for sharing your hearts, for sharing your stories, and for highlighting like the imperfection of it all. There's nothing perfect about this. There's no formula. And I just love witnessing the different energy that each of you bring, and, you know, how fun it would be to see how that shows up in your children too, to see, you know, what your children at all the different ages that they're at. Yeah. So thank you for being here. I'm going to bring Brittney back on so we can kind of close this up. And I didn't see any last questions in the chat, but if there was one, we probably have space for one more. Hey, Brittney. This
Hi.
is so awesome. This
This was amazing. Like both conversations were great. I was over here taking notes. You saw me with my notepad out, because so many gems were dropped. And I just thank you all for holding this space. This is really, really great. And I think this is going to be the first of many. Like, if there are any other like topics that you guys would love to have conversations around, please drop them in the chat or tag us on Instagram with like, what are things that you would like to talk about? Because I feel like there are a million ways that we can go with supporting and just talking about things. So thank you all so much for taking the time. This was fabulous. I hope you feel as inspired and empowered as I do, because I am like ready to take over the world from here.
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
My girls got my back. I'm putting my Superwoman cape on, and it's time.
Yeah, there is so much power in feeling community and feeling seen. Like, really, you know, I remember this quote. I remember no quotes. So me remembering a quote is a big deal. And there was not, I mean, from a movie, you know, they were like, our life is just to be witnessed. Like, the biggest thing we crave is to be witnessed. And that it, like, we're witnessing our children. Like, they just want us to witness we're witnessing each other. We are here, like, that's it. Like feeling seen gives us all that power to be like, oh, I'm not alone. I'm like, here we are, let's go. And so, I cannot wait to do this again with you, Brittney. I cannot wait to continue this conversation. We'll be sending out an email to everybody who registered to get some feedback. Please take the time to give the feedback, because that will help us curate the next panel and make sure that we're really diving into topics that matter, that will help you, that help support and empower you. So keep an eye out for that. And if you don't follow
Thank
us on
you,
Instagram,
everyone.
please come on over and make sure you do, as Brittney dropped in the chat.
Yes, I dropped it in the chat. So please be sure to follow To Indie, follow We Are Moms in Music. And then we'll also, in the recap with the replay, we'll tag all of our panelists and their links so that you can continue to follow them as well. So thank you all so much for taking out the time on this Thursday. Be inspired and go be great.
Woohoo! Let's go. Thank you guys
Thank
so much
you.
for sharing your time.
Thank you.
Bye.